This is the GTN show, and this week we are focusing on women ahead of International Women's Day, and we're controversially asking if having a baby can actually be an advantage. But don't worry, it's not all about women. We've also got news from the very first Ironman of the year, as well as some fast and furious racing from an indoor triathlon. We've got Caption, we've got pole, and we have an exciting new feature in which we're going to see Mark and Fraser racing to get out of their wetsuits. I might be alone in the set today as the boys are desperately trying to get out of their wetsuits quickly up at the pool. There's more on that in just a moment. But I'm not alone in theory because I've got plenty of interesting women to speak to ahead of International Women's Day. And I'm trying to answer that question as to whether having a baby can be advantageous in the sport of triathlon. I mean, we have seen numerous successful athletes pre and post giving birth. I mean, we've got the likes of Nicholas Spirig, who's obviously won a gold in London at the London Games and a silver in Rio. Meredith Kessler raced 5 months after giving birth, and she's been on the podium numerous times, including this weekend just gone at Ironman New Zealand. But then most recently, probably one of the most impressive comebacks for any of these athletes is from Radka Khaldefelt. Now, she went and won Ironman 70.3 Davao just 11 weeks after giving birth, and I've actually managed to catch up with her, and I wanted to find out how her training has had to adapt and is different since she's had a baby compared to before.
Now with a baby, you have a really just a tight time schedule, and you have only certain times a day you can quickly do your training, and most of my training is now indoors, and everything is on my own, everything.
Well, I personally cannot imagine training for an Ironman and 70.3 Ironmans and having a baby and managing your time. And as an athlete, a pro athlete, one of the key things is recovery and rest. So I'm really intrigued to find out how that can be prioritised and how you can actually still recover well enough to train and win 70.3 Ironmans.
Now get at least once a week a massage, which I just like pass out basically on the table because I'm so tired. And also I think recovery boots is good if I can put them on for half hour, but still not nap, but do some computer work or stuff.
Radka talked about the advantages she feels since having a baby, but what's going on physiologically? Well, to find out, I went to speak to ex-pro triathlete and now Dr. Tamsin to see what the physiological benefits could be.
I think we know now that if you support yourself well during pregnancy in terms of nutrition and don't over-exercise and everything is healthy with the baby, then all of the adaptations that happen to the body in terms of the development of the heart and lungs, the increase in the blood volume, the increase in the number of red blood cells in the body, which carry oxygen around and deliver oxygen to working muscles, that all increases during pregnancy. So there is definitely a performance advantage directly from the changes that happen to the female body during pregnancy, and that effect is sustained after someone has had a child.
Well, that's fascinating to hear, and it just shows how individual it is. But there's one triathlete who's most certainly hoping to make the most of this benefit, and that is pro triathlete Vesterby, who's now just over 30 weeks pregnant. And from what I can see, she's been training incredibly hard, and I wanted to find out how she's actually adapting her training and coping with being pregnant while still being a pro triathlete.
So in the beginning, everything felt really good, and that was also why I also tried to push it into Ironman Cozumel, where I was even longer in my pregnancy, 15 weeks. And so everything was going good, I think, to around week 20 or something, that I could also keep a certain intensity in my training. But after that, I just been taking away the whole intensity part, also just mentally. It's really important to enjoy this break, and I do that with just like train by feel. So I still have a big amount of training. I still train around 15 to 25 hours a week. So I have good weeks and I have a little bit less weeks, but I still keep moving, and that's what's important. So no stress about doing any threshold sessions or watch or anything. My watch is there, but it's only to calculate the time.
Three very different perspectives there, but the real take-home point that I got from speaking to all three of those women was how individual pregnancy is, and the comeback can be so different for everyone. And something Radka actually mentioned, which really hit home, is the social media and how, you know, all you see is the best side of athletes or of anyone who's had a baby and how great they're looking and feeling, and obviously you don't see the other side. So I think to anyone who's about to have a baby or anyone who's had one probably knows that. So I just think the key point is it's very individual. And that leads me on to this week's GTN poll, when I actually want to know your opinion, whether you've had a baby or not. Do you think it could actually be an advantage to an athlete competing in triathlon? Very simple, yes or no, and you can click on that just up here to enter that poll. And I want to have a look at last week's GTN poll when we asked you, what is the point in running? And we got some really great interaction on this one. So first of all, the results came in with just 9% of you saying other. Then next up it was to clear the mind, 16% of you. I was actually on that one. And then next it was to get fit or lose weight at 23%. While the out and out winner though with 52% was to reach a goal. And I think that just proves how goal-driven triathletes are. Me as well, even though I did actually opt for the clearing your mind. Interestingly, Craig Orrell says running definitely puts him in a mentally good place, so agreeing with me on that one. Then we've got James Rosker, who talks about the social side. Interestingly though, we didn't actually have any votes for social, but I'm sure everyone does enjoy a nice social run. Then we've got this one from Mikko Rajakangas, who says, this may not be the most popular opinion. I like this one though, but I run and swim because they're part of triathlon. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing either. Well, I'm a little bit like that when it comes to the cycling at the moment, but like the honesty there, Mikko. Then we've got Man OZ. This is probably my favourite. I run for the ice cream van. That's about it. It's time for Tri News, and a headline that caught my eye over the weekend was from Belgium, the Cobble Classics cycling race. And the women caught the men's race. Yes, it was Nicole Hanselman who had a breakaway of a couple of minutes up the road from the peloton, and she ended up having to be held on the side of the road because she caught the support vehicles for the men's race. The men had been given a 10-minute head start, but Nicole made that breakaway and sadly closed the gap too quickly, so the officials then had no choice but to neutralise the women's race, so they had to give her a rest, and the female cyclists just controlled until the men got further up the road. And she was then given the advantage that she had in theory beforehand, but I think the peloton then knew her tactics, and sadly she wasn't able to hold that position and ended up finishing 74th. So it just shows that maybe the race officials need to give the women cyclists a little bit more respect and hopefully give the men a little bit more time to get up the road. Well, moving to more triathlon specific news, we've got a new announcement from Daniela Ryf, and she has announced her racing calendar for this year. Well, that's pretty exciting to see that Daniela is on the start list for Oceanside 70.3 at the beginning of April. And then she's going to be staying in America ahead of Ironman Texas later that month. Then she's going to be back in Switzerland, and she's racing the 70.3 Rapperswil. And then also in July, she's going to be doing Ironman Austria. So she's got 2 Ironman races and 2 70.3s. And then obviously with the main focus being to defend her title as Ironman 70.3 World Champion and Ironman World Champion. But that does mean we're not going to see her at Challenge Roth or Ironman Frankfurt, both where she's been on top of the podium in the past. But now moving to triathlon at the other end of the scale, we've got the Aspire Women's Triathlon in Beaumont, USA, a new event that's going to be held in October. And it's actually a reverse triathlon. So this sprint distance, or loosely sprint distance, is a 5-kilometre run, a 10-mile bike ride, and then it finishes with a 150-metre swim. Now they're hoping this is going to encourage more women to take part. Obviously being a pool swim, that's far more accessible for people to train, and if you are a little bit worried about the swim. Plus, I don't know if it's a good thing or not, having the swim at the end so you don't have to worry about it at the start, or is it hanging over you for the whole race? Who knows, but I do like the idea of mixing triathlon up a little bit. So let us know if you've ever done a reverse triathlon. It's something that I'd like to do. I'd love to save my best to last. But now moving on, we've got a new exciting announcement. There's a new shoe coming from our partners On. It is the Cloud Swift. Well, this is a shoe that's designed for city running. They're using their new Helion Super Foam to aid with the cushioning, and it certainly looks a pretty trendy shoe. I can't wait to get my hands on a pair and try them out. But talking of new kit, you can get your hands on some virtual new kit with the new Zwift Drop Shot. You can earn your drops to spend in the drop shop purely by cycling further, climbing higher, or burning more calories. And once you've got a certain amount of credit, you can just head over to the shop and see what bike you might be able to buy virtually or what wheels you might want to upgrade. No money is actually exchanged, it is purely virtual, but it's another great incentive to get on your bike and get Zwifting. Well, now I think it's time we headed over to the pool to find out exactly what Mark and Fraser are getting up to with this new feature.
Okay, we spoke about this in the show before, and it is time to make it happen. This is transition challenge time. We're going to start with T1, or part of T1, the wetsuit removal. Now we're going to do it in the swimming pool today because it's easier to do with water in the wetsuit. So if you can, film it at your own swimming pool and time it, or you can of course just do it at home in the dry. But to make the times fair, we're going to start timing it from the moment Fraser, who is going to be our example today, is out of the water, stood up and starts to remove the wetsuit. So then you can do it at home as well and the times still count. So Fraser, are you ready? Off you go. And start timing now. See the ITU days coming through here. Oh. Guys, Jan Frodeno gone. Patrick Lang, oh, they're all gone. 17 seconds.
Well, that seems pretty fast by the boys. I think I've got my work cut out and I'm going to go home and practice taking off my wetsuit. Just hope my neighbours don't see me. But if you reckon you could beat the boys, I'm sure you can, then just make sure you get a friend to film you or set your camera up and get your wetsuit off as quickly as you can. And most importantly, send it in to us and then we can pop you on our leaderboard. Our first bit of race news this week comes from France. It was the Leuven Indoor Triathlon Festival, and within that we had the ETU Indoor Triathlon European Cup. Now this was short, sharp sprint racing at the absolute extreme because the distances were for the swim just 144 metres, the bike 3.18k, and then the run was 1.1k. So the men's race actually ended up being won in 10 minutes and the women's 11. Well, for the elites, they had heats, semi-finals and finals, but there was also racing for juniors, there were Paralympic racing, and we even had kids racing. So really an event for everyone, action-packed and super fast racing. Well, the results in the men's final, it was Chris Perrin from Great Britain who won in a 10:09. Second place was Songa Lemon from Hungary with a 10 minutes 12, so just 3 seconds separating the top two. And then just 1 second to third, and it was Pierre Lecour from France, who's actually the double European champion from Glasgow in 2018. So it just shows quite an incredible field. And the women's race, it was won by Nina Aim of Germany in 11:24. It looks like a pretty dead heat, must have been a photo finish because second place was Sandra Daudet of France, also 11:24. And just showing how close it was, the third place podium position went to Valentina Rizova of Russia in 11:25. So the top three all within 1 second. We're now going to the other end of the spectrum when it comes to triathlon racing. It was the first Ironman of the year, Ironman New Zealand. And we saw plenty of records getting broken down there over the weekend. Jocelyn McCauley took the women's title in the new course record. She actually got a running record on the way, but that didn't stay for very long because 7th place finisher Germany's Christian Leopold also broke the former record with a time of 2:55.34 of marathon. Well, joining McCauley on the podium, it was second place went to Teresa Adam, runner-up again for the second year in a row. And then Meredith Kessler, who we've also already mentioned in the show, had another strong podium finish to come home in third. Well, the men's race again saw records get broken, this time on the bike and on the run. It was Andrew Starkovich who posted an incredible time of 4 minutes 12:08 on the bike, giving him a 16-minute buffer going into the run. But sadly, that wasn't quite enough as fellow countryman Mike Phillips actually managed to run him down in the final 2k of the Ironman to take the overall lead. Andrew Starkovich managed to hang on for second, and Braden Curie, with a strong finish as well, made up the podium in third. It's now time for the GTN Caption competition, and we had this brilliant picture of Ben Canoe ahead of the Super League over in Singapore. We've had some really brilliant captions sent in. I've had to whittle it down to just 4, so we've got 3 runners up, one of which comes from Mr. Beckett. Now that's a head start. We've had a lot of puns on the head here. Gary E. Mullen on the same kind of tact here. I'm just so far ahead of everybody when it comes to the swim. I like that one. This one I related to, because if you guys watched last week's show, you'll know there's a lot of racing over at Super League and a huge amount to get your head around. Stephen Reeves, I never got my head around the Enduro. I like that one. But I think, well, our winner of this week's cap goes to Joseph Snowden. And I think this one almost needs a bit of a Scottish accent, one of which I don't have. But anyway, it goes along the lines of, I cannot believe I've been here so long. I need to reflect on what I'm doing with my life and not get so far ahead of myself when I jump in the pool. Well done, Joseph. We'll be sending a cap to you, so do get in touch. But then this week, we've got a very interesting picture from the ETU Indoor Triathlon. And well, there's a couple of swimmers looking like there's some synchro swimming going on with lane swimming here. I really am not sure. You have to look quite closely to work out how badly someone's dive has gone. But we would love to know what caption suggestions you guys have got. See if you can beat any of those from last week, because the standard has been set pretty high. I know that I'm excited about this new feature, and I think I've got some training to do. It is early in the season to start practicing T1, but it's all good practice, so make sure you go and dig out your wetsuit if you haven't yet already. Get practicing and send those in. We are looking forward to seeing these, and we're going to be sharing them in the next few shows. And don't worry, the boys are going to be back next week, but that's it for this week. If you've enjoyed the video, then give us a thumb up, like, and if you like the look of any of the kit that we're wearing in this video or any of the others, then just click on the link to the shop and have a browse over there. And to make sure you get every single video here at GTN, just hit the globe. And obviously we've just had run weeks. We've got loads of great running content out at the moment, including our Monopoly challenge video, and you can find that one here. And if you want to know how to improve your running technique, well, check out Fraser's perfect running technique video just here.